Broadcasting from the First National Bank Tower, this is KLEK Jonesboro, the voice of Arkansas Minority Advocacy Council.
Jonesboro's community radio station. Your life, your music. KLEK 102.5 FM.
Good Thursday morning, Jonesboro. This is meteorologist Tim Root with your KLEK 102.5 forecast. Mostly sunny skies, a nice fall day today, 70 to 75, but those temperatures will fall into the 60s by this evening. You'll be down into the fall 40s tonight, 42 to 48, mostly clear skies, light north winds. Friday, mostly sunny in the mid-60s, and it'll be in the mid to upper 60s over the course of the weekend, partly to mostly sunny. There might be a few showers. Saturday night is a Sunday. Be sure to tune in this month for debates between local candidates running for office. Jonesboro, that's your KLEK 102.5 FM weather.
From Feature Story News in London, I'm Ollie Barrett. The European Union's announced it's taking legal action against the UK over plans to undercut the Brexit divorce treaty. Russian opposition figure Alexei Navalny says the Kremlin was responsible for the chemical attack that almost cost him his life. Russia is offering to host peace talks over clashes in Nagorno-Karabakh, and Japan is easing entry restrictions for international arrivals, excluding tourists.
It's 9:01.
KLEK LP Jonesboro, the voice of Arkansas Minority Advocacy Council. It's now time for Community Conversations, a program focusing on the people working to make the Jonesboro community a better place, while offering viewpoints from all sides of the issues. The views expressed in this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of KLEK 102.5 FM, the voice of Arkansas Minority Advocacy Council, or our underwriters or sponsors.
KLEK 102.5 FM. Good morning to you on your Thursday. It's October 1st, 2020. This is Community Conversations, a special Community Conversations. This is our Jonesboro Mayoral debate, and we have joined us via Zoom, Kabila Jones, host of Community Conversations. And joining us in the studio are two of the three candidates running for mayor of Jonesboro. We have Andy Shatley and Harold Copenhaver. Unfortunately, Thomas Elwood could not join us today, but it will not be the last opportunity to catch all three of these men debating. There is a Kiwanis Club debate coming up, which we'll provide more details for later, in which we will stream. So, not going to waste any time. I'm going to go ahead and get into the format of today's debate. We will start off with an opening statement. Andy won the coin toss, so he will lead with our opening statement. We'll have 2 minutes for the opening statements, and after that, we're going to go into segment one. Kabila and I have chosen a series of questions in which we will ask the candidates. Each candidate will have 2 minutes to answer, and the other candidate will have 2 minutes to respond. Then going into our second segment, we will take questions from you, those that are watching on our Facebook Live feed. And then for each candidate, we'll have 2 minutes to answer, and others will have 2 minutes to respond on that end. And then our third segment, which is the one that I always look forward to the most, well, almost maybe the most, the candidates will get to ask questions of each other. And again, the person who gets asked the question has 2 minutes to respond, and then the person answering that asked the question, will get 2 minutes to rebut. And then to end things off on a good note, the final part will be each candidate has to say something positive about his opponent, and then we go into closing statements. So, gentlemen, do you understand the rules?
Yes, sir. Good morning.
Good morning. All right, so we're not going to waste any time. We're going to go ahead and start off with our opening statement. Mr. Shatley.
Good morning, Leganzi, and always appreciate the format that you give candidates to be able to connect with voters. My name is Andy Shatley, and I'm running for mayor of Jonesboro. My family moved here in 1983, Curtis and Diana Shatley, and we moved here for them to serve in the music ministry at Walnut Street Baptist Church. And I went to Nelson High School, graduated in 1994, and met my high school sweetheart. And we, this November, will be married 23 years. And I have two beautiful daughters, Ava and Sky, and they both attend Jonesboro Public Schools. I went on to attend Arkansas State University, graduated twice from there, and pursued a physical therapy career. And for the last 12 years, I've been the director of sports medicine at the largest sports medicine program in Northeast Arkansas. We oversee approximately 3,000 athletes a year. I'm running for mayor of Jonesboro because I'm passionate about this city. I believe in its future, and I believe in its potential. I believe that not major changes need to be happening at City of Jonesboro. We just need to continue to push forward with bright ideas, integrating all kinds of solutions, and bringing everybody to the table that can be of value. I'm passionate about keeping Jonesboro safe. I'm passionate about promoting Jonesboro to the world abroad for businesses and potential visitors. I'm passionate about giving every citizen an opportunity for success in Jonesboro and also improving the quality of life here at home. I believe that Jonesboro deserves a mayor that's of the people, that understands the needs of the people, and is a great listener, and it can also implement solutions and ideas, and not just talk about things, but also get things done. So once again, I appreciate the format. And my name is Andy Shatley. Once again, I'm running for mayor, and I hope that I can earn your vote.
All right, you was going to make sure you got all of those 2 minutes. All right, let's reset the clock, and Mr. Copenhaver.
Good morning, Leganzi, and I hope you can hear me well, and I appreciate, again, having this discussion this morning. I think it's important.
Oh, you're on, hold up.
Am I on the wrong mic?
Let's see, you should be on 2. Okay, I think you're speaking in the 3. This one, the one with the Republican symbol on it. Speak. That mask that you have on, ooh. You don't have a cloth mask. You don't have a cloth mask, do you? I think that plastic.
Plastic.
Okay. Go ahead and sit on number 3.
Okay.
We apologize about that. Yeah, that's the thing about these masks. They definitely do provide some challenges. So let's get this clock restarted.
All right.
Okay. Not speaking to it.
Test.
Okay.
Test.
Okay. All right. So now let's restart the clock, Mr. Copenhaver.
All right, Leganzi, thank you again for this opportunity this morning. And let me introduce myself a little bit to the community, those who don't know me. I've been here since 1970. My father was Dean of Fine Arts at Arkansas State University, served in the military for 24 years. I was born at the Air Force Academy. I met my wife here in this community. We've been married now for 38 years. We've been members of First Baptist Church the entire time. I've got 3 wonderful children, and they have now started their own families in this community. So again, why I'm running to be your next mayor is experience. Experience as a state legislator, which enabled me the process of learning about legislative audit, which meant taking care of your tax dollars. I served on Revenue and Tax Committee as well. All your tax dollars went through there. We made decisions, and I was part of over $100 million in tax cuts. I also was chairman of the 911 Task Force Committee for the state of Arkansas, but more importantly, I worked on and balanced a $5 billion budget. Experience. As a banker and business development officer at Centennial Bank here in Jonesboro, that's enabled me to work with small businesses, bringing them to this community, as well as the largest institutions in our community. I also experience as a business owner, making payroll, and experience in real life with my family. But more important, this job is going to take somebody who is qualified to work from day one. We don't have time for a year and a half or 2 years. It's about relationships that have been built outside this community as well as inside. I am applying for the job to be your next mayor, and I want us to work together and move this community forward. Thank you, Leganzi.
All right, thank you, Mr. Copenhaver. Let's go to Quabila for our first question. Quabila, are you with us? You're muted. Quabila? Guess I may have to use my backup. All right, Quabila, we're going to go to Quabila for our first question. You're still muted, Quabila.
All right, good morning, everyone. How are you doing?
Good morning.
Good morning.
All right, so the first question is, what are some ways that you would work? I'm not.
Oh. I can hear you.
Okay.
Oh, and by the way, which one are you asking this to, by the way? Who's this question going to go to first?
Oh, I'm so sorry. To Shatley.
Okay. Now go ahead and ask the question.
Okay. What are some ways that you would work to increase diversity, and that includes gender and ethnicity, within city government? And the second part of that question is, would you be willing to consider professional development trainings that include addressing individual biases that could hinder a harmonious working environment? And do you support diversity training for city employees? I know there's quite a lot, but I'll go back if you need me to ask the rest of it.
Yep.
Did you understand it?
Yep. So the third question is an absolutely yes. I support that, and in the healthcare profession, we do that all the time. That's a part of our training on being able to take care of patients the best we can, as far as addressing biases that we potentially could have, either race, culture, or gender, so that we could provide the best care for the patient. So yes to that question. Second, it has been identified in our city government that we are not representative of the population right now, according to gender and race. If you just look at department heads, we have about 22 or 23 department heads, and only one is minority. We only have just a handful of female. So I think it behooves any city administration to acknowledge that first. And the current administration has acknowledged that. And they've also sought out some input from Arkansas State University and their leadership of diversity and inclusion to come in and do a study and help them to try to figure out, is this a cultural issue at City Hall, or do we not have enough applicants that are diverse as far as gender or race or whatever you're talking about there? So that is a wide-reaching answer, but absolutely open to all those things that you said, and we do need to address those because it's imperative that city administration reflect and represent its citizenry.
All right. Well, we only got 30 seconds, so. Okay. Well, let me back the clock back up to 30 seconds. Okay, now Q, what was you saying?
The other part of that is, and I apologize to, the current administration. I don't know what they currently do, but would you be open to hosting, quarterly, biannually seminars, meetings that addresses biases and, just these different things, these different cultural issues that we may face?
Yeah, exactly. That goes back to my answer. Certainly, and on the healthcare profession, we do that. As far as our annual competencies that we do, we have those same training competencies on a yearly, annual basis. And so I don't know how often you would like to see that happen, but certainly annually it needs to happen.
All right, and we will now go to Mr. Copenhagen. Do you remember the question? Do I need to restate?
Let's start rephrasing that.
Okay, well, I'll paraphrase it. Basically, she's asking, what are some ways that you would work to increase diversity? That's the first part. The second, would you be willing to conduct professional development to help eliminate individual biases? And then part three is, do you support diversity training for city employees?
Well, my experience in banking, that and insurance as well, diversity has always been at the forefront in the educational process. So, Cabela, that is obviously an important role. I've already reached out to community leaders, diverse community leaders, and asked for their input. Would they be willing? Obviously, City Council, any new committee like that has to be formed through City Council, and we can do so. But that is on the forefront of the administration, and the city has to reflect our community. That is what I believe in, and the more it does so, the more successful we're going to be. The other thing is diversity, and as I mentioned the other evening, is getting our students involved in our community, and I think that grows our diversity levels to where we don't question those issues anymore. That's starting at the high school level, that'd be at an internship program, and at the city government, whether it's a shadowing program for high school students, to understand what our community is like, get them involved at all levels, their interest. But more importantly is working with and partnering with Arkansas State University. It's our greatest tool, our greatest asset, and to incorporate students into the city government on the process, how it works, solving solutions, and that's diversity. So these students bring diversity, but more importantly, then they can reach out to our community and work and be involved in our community so we can solve those problems together of our diversity.
All right, thank you, Mr. Copenhagen. I want to thank both of you for being gentlemanly and cordially, not yelling and shouting over each other. I think after the most recent presidential debate, I think that is definitely a welcome change. So I'm going to go ahead and ask our next question, and we'll start with Mr. Copenhagen this time. It is, What is your opinion on the rights of employees to express their personal opinions while working for the city? I'm going to give a little quick background. Earlier in the parent administration, the former Parks Director Wixon Huffstetler had made a comment about some protests in Memphis, calling some of the protesters, many minorities, a derogatory term, and Mayor Perrin at the time suspended him. We actually had Mayor Perrin on the radio to talk about it. And of course, there's been other instances of city employees posting things on their personal social media that did not reflect positive on their employment. So again, the question is, what is your opinion on the rights of employees to express their personal opinions while working for the city? And we'll start with Mr. Copenhaver, 2 minutes.
Well, that is an excellent question, and obviously living in the community for the time period that I've been here, I've seen this community grow. I came here, we had 25,000 people. I was able to ride my bike freely, and public safety was not an issue or concern. But addressing the freedom of speech, obviously I believe in that, but more importantly, we have to work together as a family. And there's almost 600 employees in city government. And there are guidelines for that because we have to also protect the people of this community. And so as a city employee, you have responsibility. That is in the job description. I wasn't there. Wasn't involved in the process with Mr. Perrin or Mr. Wixon at the time. But I felt Mr. Perrin had to handle the situation he felt was due. That wasn't my call, obviously. But under a Copenhaver administration, the employees are going to be a part of a family. We're going to have an open communication line, and we're going to discuss things. I want the employees to understand that their health insurance matters, that their retirement plan matters. And with my experience on those issues for the last 35 years, I'm going to battle for them and protect them in every way possible. But more importantly, I want them to also work with the administration and understand that we have your back as much as you want us to.
All right, Mr. Shatley.
Yes, that as far as personal communication, whenever an employee of an entity communicates in public manner, you are going to be representing your employer. And when you choose to serve in public service, now you are serving the people, the citizens of Jonesboro. So guarding your speech and being responsible for your speech is important. And certainly your First Amendment rights are still also vitally important. But once you become an employee of the city of Jonesboro, now you work for the citizens of Jonesboro. So it's important for all of us to guard our speech so that it's positive in nature. Those certain things that I think all of us work on a daily basis. But holding people accountable, but also having a remediation process for something and a review process for something like that happening. It's very important to bring that to the forefront, to deal with that, and to have a process of either remediation or removal, depending on the severity of the conversations that are ahead. But certainly in my administration, we want to be as positive as possible. We want to reflect positively on the citizenry and be an administration that the citizens of Jonesboro are proud of.
All right, thank you for that. All right, we will go to Quabila for the next question.
Okay, so the next question is, while there's crime in Jonesboro, it is not as severe as it may seem, due partly to our population per capita. What plans are you outlining to work with our local law enforcement to address the crime our city does face?
And who do you want to start?
Are we alternating?
We'll start with Ms. Copenhaver.
All right, so we'll start with Mr. Copenhaver, 2 minutes.
That's a great question, and that is the top priority of the Copenhaver administration is safety, because without safety, Quabella, we can't move this community forward. Our officers, and let me go back a little bit. When I was in the legislature, that provided me the opportunity. I had ridden with state police for many years. That opened my eyes to what they go through on a daily or evening situations, and that provided me the opportunity when I got in the legislature, I could see it from their eyes. So I sponsored every bill that the Arkansas State Police Department and first responders ran during my session. I passed every single bill. This was for their protection, whether it was from tinted windows to child safety restraints. This was from the eyes of what our officers are seeing daily. I would continue to do that and provide them the needed tools again to provide our community safety, because without that we can't provide the quality of life, we can't provide the entertainment that our community is asking to provide. But more importantly, it's involving our officers as well. The number one thing I hear in the community is, I'd like to see them more. Well, you know what? We're going to make that happen. And our officers are the lifeline between you and I when it comes to communications. We have 13 SRO officers in our schools. The unfortunate thing is, when summer's out, the officers aren't available anymore because they're taking their vacation because of all the overtime that they work during school. The kids in our community are saying, where is that officer? I miss him. I can't wait to see him next year. That is the key to our community and moving it forward. So safety is the number one goal, making it work, providing the opportunity for those officers, and fully staffing our safety.
All right, we got to leave it there. Mr. Shatley.
Thank you, Quabila, for the answer, for the question about public safety and also crime. And I also appreciate your insight and summation as far as Jonesboro's crime versus other major metropolitan areas, and comparing us to larger metropolitan areas and say that Jonesboro has a crime issue or a crime problem. I do not agree with that. This is a great place to live. Jonesboro is safe. And I have continually said that it's vital that Jonesboro be a safe community, but also we have to have a reputation of being safe. And I think it behooves all of us to talk about Jonesboro in a positive light. Now, that doesn't mean that we're going to cover up things that are happening in Jonesboro. And of course, we do have crime, and with growth, very soon, probably in this census, we'll be at 80,000 people. Yes, that comes with crime will come with the growth population. We understand that. But I will tell you, the size of Jonesboro being 82 square miles creates a challenge for the police departments coverage-wise. Recently, I've ridden with the police department, and rode on second shift and third shift. And on the second shift, we usually try to keep somewhere between 12 and 15 officers out on the street on second shift. And at that shift, we were only at 10 or 11 officers. And so when you see their calls come in, call after call after call, and they're running around town, we literally never stopped. And then we went to third shift, and those guys did not stop, and there was only about 8 or 9 officers out on third shift. And so staffing creates a problem. And so instead of being able to community police like we've always heard, now we're just we're running around town trying to chase the calls. And so that becomes very difficult to have positive interactions with the community. And I absolutely believe that improving the relationship between the police department and the citizens is about having more and more positive interactions with the citizens in the police department, and that comes with more staffing.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Shatley. And our next question, we will actually start with you. It says, COVID-19 cases continue to rise in KLEK County. What will you do as mayor to limit the spread and enforce compliance? Or will you require employees to wear masks? Or are you in favor of just lifting all COVID restrictions altogether? 2 minutes.
Currently, right now, the governor still has the mask mandate. There are some exceptions as far as breathing, and the younger population don't have to wear the mask. But I think it's very important for all of us to do whatever we can do. I mean, all three of us are sitting here with the mask on, and there is science that says the mask is reducing the chances of spread of COVID-19. Is it the surefire way of preventing the spread? No, because we're still having numbers go up. But I think it's important for all of us to take personal responsibility to try to prevent the spread of COVID-19. There are people getting sick. There are people that we know that are getting sick and hospitalized and potentially having a very bad outcome. And so it's very important to me personally to wear a mask whenever I can't social distance. So as the numbers continue to flesh themselves out, I think it's important not only at the state and national level to watch that dashboard, but we also need to have a local dashboard. One of the things that I've talked about is establishing a public health commission next year, because this is not going to be the last pandemic that we have to deal with in the future, because public health crises are going to be something we're going to face more and more and more, especially the denser metropolitan areas. And so as Jonesboro grows, we need to have a local leadership in place that has local public health administrators of the hospitals, so we can have a pulse on what's going on at the hospitals and whether or not they're overrun or not, and if with the resources they need. We need police and fire in on that conversation. We need legislators, and we also need industry, because when you have these restrictions and you place these restrictions on local industry and businesses, it is really tough to continue to do business, and affects us economically. So that Public Health Commission is what I will be taking their feedback moving forward in a Shatley administration next year.
Mr. Copenhaver.
Thank you, Leganzi, and this is obviously a lesson that we are learning and growing together as a community. Have we faced this issue personally? No, none of us are old enough to have been through this before, but this has happened in the past.
Put the mic a little closer to you.
This has happened in the past, and again, what we're taking from this is, number one, us as a community, we are abiding by the law, and the law is what the governor has set forth in standards moving forward. I think it's important that we keep in mind here that individuals certain businesses are suffering. I know through the PPP program, which were small business owners, they didn't have assistance and didn't know where to turn when the government assistance was in order. I plan on any time we have a major occurrence such as this to provide information available on the city's website, which is one of my pillars to update and make it more user-friendly. We've got to be able to communicate with our community on issues and how it affects them. The quicker we can get funds into their pocket, the less that they're going to pay the price. So again, you have to be able as a leader of this community to know where to turn. Again, our community leaders, NYIT, both of our hospitals and organizations, we involve them and set them forward and say, look, let's learn from this. How do we move forward? The other process is if we put more control into local government, the only way that process can occur, I've been there. I know how to communicate that with our representatives and governor of this state. So it's important that we as a community say this is how we feel it affects us, and we have the ability to communicate that. But again, that's because of relationships.
All right, we're going to have to leave it there. And that concludes our first segment. Gentlemen, thank you again for your decorum, and thank you for your answers to the questions. We're going to get ready to go into a break. When we come back, we will have questions from you on our Facebook Live feed. So go ahead and post those questions for our candidates, and we are going to ask them to you. So back in a few, don't go anywhere. This is Community Conversations, a special debate between the candidates running for mayor of Jonesboro. This is KLEK 102.5 FM.
You're listening to Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM. We'll be right back.
When was the last time you found yourself caught in a storm? I'm Mark Mayoral with today's Family Minute. Thunderstorms here in Florida come and go, often very quickly. But what about the storms in our lives, the ones that don't disappear so easily? Anxiety can be one of those storms, and it's more common than we think. In fact, anxiety affects 40 million adults in America, about 18% of our population. Recently, some of my friends shared with me their battles with anxiety. So, what can you do if you experience anxiety? First, talk to a trusted friend or doctor about your struggle. Second, practice relaxation techniques to use when anxious thoughts begin clouding your mind. For more on how to deal with anxiety, visit my blog at markmayoral.com. Remember, your family first.
Made possible by the Kappa Nu Omega chapter of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, a nonprofit organization committed to service to all mankind. Kappa Nu Omega Alpha Kappa Alpha on Facebook.
Brought to you by the Jonesboro Alumni Chapter of Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated, dedicated to the purpose of achievement. Jonesboro Alumni at gmail.com, Jonesboro AR Alumni Chapter of Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity on Facebook, and Jonesboro_Kappas on Instagram.
Support for KLEK is brought to you by...
Years ago, Gail decided she would help me out by mowing the yard with our new lawnmower. I came home, the mower's in the front yard, running, the hoodie came down, V-shaped, lodged in the ground. Gail and Todd came out of the house, 2 little pine trees had been run over. I touched the mailbox, it fell over. Gail said, I stood it back up. Todd was small and been riding on the mower with her. He said, I just want it off. Glenn sang, and God bless our troops.
The Office of Diversity and Community Engagement at Arkansas State University, under the leadership of Dr. Lenny Williams, is a proud supporter of KLEK and is dedicated to finding innovative ways to advance their mission of creating a diverse and inclusive environment conducive to educating, enhancing, and enriching lives, uplifting various and diverse groups on the A-State campus, and striving to make Arkansas State University a place that is inclusive to all individuals, regardless of origin, color, religion, socioeconomic status, or sexual orientation. More information about Arkansas State University Office of Diversity and Community Engagement is available at www.astate.edu/diversity and 870-972-3081.
KLEK thanks the staff of Life Strategies Counseling Incorporated for helping people through hard times in life such as depression, family issues, stress, abuse, and more. They offer counseling and therapy for all ages, individuals, families, and groups. They are located at 1217 Stone Street. Phone number 1-866-972-1268 or online at lscihelp.com.
And now back to Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM.
And we're back on Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM. This is our Jonesboro mayoral debate between Andy Shatley and Harold Copenhaver. Unfortunately, Thomas Elwood could not join us today, so we're not going to waste any time. We're going to go ahead and go to the questions from our live feed. And so we will go to Kabila, who will pick our first question.
Okay, so I want to say thank you to everyone who submitted questions, and please forgive me for not just starting with the top of the line. I just picked a random one from Mr. Roger Kidd. He wants to know about your plans on cutting spending to gain revenue. We hear about, spending. We hear about budget. We hear about our reserves. But what are your plans you have on cutting spending and gaining more revenue so we don't have to dip into the reserves?
And starting with
Mr. Copenhaver.
2 minutes.
Well, when it comes to budgeting, obviously that's when experience comes into play, and it's more important too to understand what each we have 34 departments in total overall in our budget. Our budget's almost $70 million. Obviously, I think Harold Perrin has done an extremely good job. The last 11 years, we have had a clean legislative audit report. Now, to some people that doesn't mean anything, but what that means is that he is handling, and his administration has been handling our budget within the state guidelines, and they have passed every test. I will continue to do that. That is a huge asset to our community because we have not always been that fortunate. It's important that I also continue with working with our city council. In working with the city council, they have many of the decisions to make, and it's laid forth of what their responsibilities are. So including them and working with them is key. I plan on being involved in those conversations, and I want them to know that I've got an open door as well. So again, that is how we have to create. Now, I'm looking forward. I've already started the process with, I call them PPPs, public-private partnerships. Our community is talking to me and they're saying, Harold, I want to participate. I want to step up to the plate, whether that's a developer, whether that's a business owner. We are excited about the opportunity, and what I'm hearing in the community is, Harold, we're ready for a new beginning. We're ready for an opportunity, and we're looking forward to a new administration. And in doing so, we're going to be able to stretch that dollar. Trust me, I'm physically conservative, and you will see the operation continue to move forward in a safe manner.
Mr. Shatley.
So the question was about cuts in the budget. So let's talk about some areas that we've identified already. In the police department, we have budgeted over $250,000 of overtime. And that is police. A lot of times that's police officers not actually doing much of anything. They're going to the court to try to wait on the courts to be heard. And speaking of the police officers, and they tell me, Andy, surely we can solve something here for us not to be sitting idle and have to use overtime for that. The second thing is our budget line item for the prison. The county jail, it continues to rise every year, going up from 2.4 million to now it's going to be 2.6 million this year. And talking to several police officers, and they're concerned about the high recidivism rate of prisoners. I think we're at 51 to 55%, to where we have to have a program to where we're not continually putting the same people in prison for issues that we can actually deal with and improve that situation and get that person back into productive citizenry. There are also contracts that are out there that we're dealing with as far as mowing contracts that we need to be reviewed. The last thing is on whether or not city vehicles need to be purchased or leased. There's some issues to where we can lease vehicles, and it's going to be a better financial deal than buying vehicles. So those are some things that we've already identified that we could potentially save money on.
All right, and we thank you for that. And I'm going to ask our next question. It comes from Joanne Brown Jackson, and I'm going to ask this since this was actually on Quavilas and I's list, but we didn't get to it, so this actually is perfect. She says, and we'll start with Mr. Shatley, looking at what we've been seeing around the country regarding racism, how would you as mayor would change this issue in Jonesboro? Mr. Shatley, 2 minutes.
That comes with relationships and community communication. That also comes with being able to have a seat at the table. People get upset when they don't feel like they're being heard. And so that's something that I have done since my announcement, May the 4th. I've connected with anybody and everybody that wants to talk about solutions in Jonesboro. I've gone from city limit to city limit, north, east, south, and west, to talk to anybody who has solutions that can bring value to the table. So people get upset whenever they don't feel like their voice is being heard, and they don't feel like the necessary changes that need to be done are happening. And it behooves the city administration to bring people to the table and say, we are listening. Let's talk about the peaceful protest that we had here on Caraway Road that many of us were at. Listening to people and being present in the moment is one of the most important and crucial things you can do as being a leader. And that's exactly what I did. And I heard those voices at the police department. I watched the chief field those questions honorably, and I commend him, because that's the type of leadership we need in the mayor's office. And to sit there with the bullhorn and take the feedback, and there was some great leadership that was had. That was one of the most inspiring things that I've seen in a long time at the police department. So that's the type of leader that I will be if you elect me as your next mayor.
All right, Mr. Copenhaver.
Wow, what a subject. What a subject. Do we have situations...
Bring the mic closer to you.
Okay, sorry about that. You know, in moving forward with leadership, again, that's where a mayor has to have good people around him, and you depend on those individuals. Police Chief Elliott rose to the top, but not only was he by himself, he was with his officers as well, but they have been building and molding these relationships for many years, and this is a continuation of, again, the open door policy. I will provide that. I have been talking with many of these leaders. I've already asked them to be at the table. I am building an economic summit in my administration, and that is going to include all facets of our community. That's going to be just individuals. That's going to be small business owners. That's going to be large industries. We've got to work together. And what I'm hearing is, number one, we have got to bring public safety to the table. We bring public safety to the table, then we're going to be able to communicate better. We're going to be safer in our city, and that's what my goal is for families to say, I feel safe here, regardless of the situation, because we've got good people in place, they understand our community, and we can address the issues moving forward. There's always going to be hiccups in administration, but that's where experience and maturity comes into play in how to handle those. So again, moving forward, this is an open door policy. I believe the current administration has done well at that, but more importantly, I want to make that aware to where people can communicate online with us. They can communicate Facebook-wise. These are things that we have to adjust to as our community and technology changes.
All right, thank you for that. We will now go to Kabila for the next question.
Okay, so our next question concerns arts. And we know that communities thrive when individuals have access to visual and performing arts. And we know that we have facilities right here in Jonesboro, the Foundation of Arts, and many other facilities that provide those services. So for both of you, and we'll start with Mr. Shatley, how important are the arts to you? How would you assist with the arts in Jonesboro? And this comes from Quentin Sanders. What are some ways that the city of Jonesboro can help to increase the quality of the services when it comes to arts?
Good morning, Quentin. He's a friend of mine, and we've sang together. Harold and I have also sang together. We were both big time in the arts as far as that goes, and supporters. So arts is a vital pillar of a vibrant community. I think many of us agree, and we all want to see the arts supported in Jonesboro. Not only music, but 3D, sculpture, dance, music, instrument, all of the arts are such a vital foundation of a vibrant culture. And I can certainly tell you that's something I've been passionate about for many years. I've been associated with the Foundation of Arts and been in musicals and plays, and my daughters both have been on stage. It's a big part of who we are, and I think it's a big part of a lot of the citizens of Jonesboro to want to see the infrastructure. The question always is, if we need to build new buildings or infrastructure, how are we going to pay for it? And it is important to understand that we have to bring a coalition of people together to get these projects off the ground and the infrastructure that we need. But I would certainly love to see Jonesboro come to common ground as far as the support of the arts community, because it is vital. It's whenever we have physicians come to town, whenever we have ASU professors come to town and they're recruited, that's one of the first places they want to go. They want to see, what does your arts community look like, and where do my children, or what are opportunities for us to participate in the arts? And so when we're recruiting and retaining new visitors to Jonesboro, Arkansas, that's exactly where they're going. And so we have to invest and make sure that we're on top game there whenever those people come into town.
All right, Mr. Copenhaver.
Well, I will say that Andy and I have been blessed with some talents that we're able to continue on in our community. And I, of all people, my father was Commandant of the Air Force bands at the Pentagon. He was in charge of 72 bands. I grew up with Glenn Miller and that style music, but when he came to Arkansas State University, he was Dean of Fine Arts. The influence of what the arts has in our community is not just what is occurring downtown, but it is what those students are learning. These are students that don't have the ability in other areas, but they have a wonderful gift that has been provided to them. And we have to share that gift, but more importantly, these students grow up. They become young adults. Where do they go? They go to a university, they go to a school that provides the arts. Then they become educators. So now they're teaching our children back in our community, and you would be surprised at the involvement of how many educators that are in all of our local school systems that went through the arts program. More importantly, how does the arts attract? How do we continue to do that? The S&P does a good job on that. There's always additional ways that we can find additional revenue, and that's through people coming into our community paying taxes. That goes to the S&P and A&P, excuse me. And they're able to facilitate funds to grow that area downtown. But as the arts grow downtown, the area downtown will relish as well. So that then grows outward into our community. So again, not everybody is an arts individual, but I think as more we involve people in the process, then we can understand their needs as well. But the arts is key. I'm looking forward to continuing our involvement with this community and helping them grow.
All right. Thank you for that. And we are going to go to our next question, and we'll start with Mr. Copenhaver on this one. This comes from Teresa Beck, who says, what groups have endorsed each individual candidate? Mr. Copenhaver, 2 minutes starts now.
Well, I feel that endorsements are very important, because what that means is that provides you the opportunity of someone who has seen you work in the community through a long period of time. I'm very fortunate that I ran for mayor 4 years ago, but in that process, I did not go negative against Harold Perrin. He was a public servant, he represented us well, and has continued to do so. In that process, Mr. Perrin and I have had many conversations. I have my own administration ideas. This is not the same type situation. I'm going to be going forth with a new vision involving new people, new opportunities for our community. But to receive his endorsement as somebody who has 12 years of experience as our mayor, who has continued the growth annually, is simply amazing. We're a gym, but you have to have somebody in this role that the mayor has said, I understand Mr. Copenhaver knows the ability to be able to not only work well in our community, but to reach outside our community. The relationships that I have built over the last decade is key in being able to fight for what we need in our community. And then in the legislature, I served for first responders. I developed new programs and worked with the city of Jonesboro. I received the Municipal League Award for the work that I had done for our community. And I provided first responders quicker access by providing signals on top of the working with the community on that, so our firemen are able to get to you faster. We need to do the same thing for the police. And the firemen have also endorsed me in this, and that is very meaningful. I'm humbled by that, because these are wonderful men, and I'm looking forward to many more to come.
All right, Mr. Shatley.
Yeah, the interesting question about endorsements comes out, and the only endorsement that I really am looking for is the endorsement of the citizens of Jonesboro on November the 3rd. I want them to endorse me as the mayor, the next mayor of Jonesboro, and I'm trying hard to connect with your everyday citizens and all throughout town. And I'll give you a couple of reasons why. First of all, the current administration, on May the 4th, I was the first candidate to announce that I was running for mayor. And the next candidate to announce was the current administration. So it's no surprise to me that our current mayor endorses another opponent because I was running against him. So that's not surprising to me, because there are some things that I was shooting for changing whenever I announced to run. The second thing is I've spent time in people's dining rooms. About 2 days ago, I got a message on my website, and it was from a family in the north part of Jonesboro. And they asked me to come to their house, and I said, absolutely. Got in my truck, went to north part of Jonesboro, almost the city limits. And we sat down, they opened the door, walked into their dining room, and there was 4 people sitting in the dining room waiting on me to talk real issues. And when I sat down, I did not know these people, and we spent an hour and 15 minutes talking about real issues. And they said, Andy, we didn't really know who you were, but we saw you on the debates on KIT on Tuesday night, and you and how you answered the questions and actually brought real solutions. They were very impressed, and they said, you have our vote. So I've spent my time trying to reach every potential voter in Jonesboro to the city limits, north, east, south, and west for the entire time. And so the endorsement I'm looking for is for you to vote for me on November the 3rd as your next mayor of Jonesboro.
All right, and we thank both of you for this. That is going to conclude this segment. We thank everybody who asked the question on the live feed, and I would just like to ask each of you, because there were so many, if you, after this debate is over, when y'all got time, please go back on the live feed and personally answer the questions that our listeners and viewers posted, because these questions are important. I wish we could have gotten to each and every one of them, but we do have to get ready to go to our next segment. Mr. Copenhaver does have an engagement coming up in about 30 minutes, so we want to make sure that we get through the entire debate so that we can get all of the segments in. But again, will each of you be willing to go back on the feed later and answer the listeners' questions?
Yes.
All right, well, thank you so much. We're going to get ready to go into a break, but stay right with us. When we come back, each candidate will ask questions of each other. So they're going to think about what they're going to ask them. Remember to please keep it civil. Y'all have done a great job so far. We'll be back. This is KLEK.
You're listening to Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM. We'll be right back.
We're back with Money Matters. I'm Alfred Edmond Jr. Our Think Wealthy quote of the week comes from wealth management expert Robin Young, founder of Women Behaving Wealthy.
Everyone deserves a fun account. First of all, you want to think about what gives you the most pleasure, what's most important to you in terms of spending. If it's shopping, you need to shop. If it's travel, you must travel. The key, though, is you create a separate account. And that separate account, you fund every time you get paid. And that's where you spend on your fun expenditures. And so once that money's gone, the caveat, though, is that you can't spend any more.
The truth is that it's about prioritizing, not deprivation. So go ahead, have some fun. For more great tips from Robin Young, go to womenbehavingwealthy.com. I'm Alfred Edmond Jr. for Money Matters, a product of American Urban Radio Networks.
Made possible by the Jonesboro Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, focused on joy in our sisterhood, power in our voice, and service in our hearts. www.jonesboroalumnidst.org.
Money Matters is brought to you by the Guide Right Jonesboro Kappa League, a nonprofit organization that guides young men to a life of achievement. Kappa League Jonesboro on Facebook, Jonesboro_Kappa League on Instagram, and JonesboroKappaLeague@gmail.com.
Money Matters is brought to you by Bancorp South, offering checking, savings, loans, credit cards, and wealth management. www.bancorpsouth.com or 870-972-9800.
Starks Auto Plaza and Auto Service now under one roof. 2829 Red Wolf Boulevard, serving the Jonesboro community for over 5 years. They offer wholesale pricing to the public on vehicles, financing for everyone, and synthetic blend and full synthetic oil changes with spin-on filter with vehicle inspection included. Starks Auto Plaza. We never say no. 870-203-9980. Details at starksautoplaza.com.
KLEK 102.5 FM salutes small businesses. Small businesses promote local character and success, keeping money in the local economy, local jobs, entrepreneurship, community well-being, and so much more. Contact us today to learn more on how your small business could be featured on KLEK for as little as $25 per month.
Shout out to Stephanie Sweat, licensed clinical social worker, owner and therapist at Vibrant Therapy. Depression, anxiety, self-esteem, work and life balance. 870-433-2870, vibrant-therapy.net.
And now back to Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM.
And we're back on Community Conversation on KLEK 102.5 FM. Our mayoral debate with Andy Shatley and Harold Copenhaver. Again, unfortunately, Thomas Elwood could not join us, but you'll get an opportunity to hear from all three candidates tomorrow from the NEA Political Animals debate. It will be from the Chamber of Commerce. I believe it starts at 12 noon, right?
Yes.
And, of course, we will bring that to you live. But now this is the third part of our debate, where each candidate will ask the opponent one question. And so the way it's going to work, we'll start with Mr. Copenhaver. Mr. Copenhaver is going to ask Mr. Shatley a question. Mr. Shatley will get 2 minutes to answer, then Mr. Copenhaver will get 2 minutes to rebut it, and then we will flip it, where Mr. Shatley will ask the question, Mr. Copenhaver will get 2 minutes, and then Mr. Shatley will get 2 minutes to rebut it. So we will go ahead with Mr. Copenhaver with your question for Mr. Shatley.
Absolutely, Leganzi, and this is unusual. I've never done this in 12 years, so this is new, and I think it's an interesting platform. I've got one question for Andy, and it basically is, what do you think about my platform that I've set forth in moving the city forward?
First of all, both of us have put public safety as a top priority, and I absolutely agree with you that, and speaking with the citizens of Jonesboro, they also agree with both of us on that platform. that public safety is the most important thing to them. One of the things that I've also said that Jonesboro needs to be a safe community for us to have good economic development, and has to have a reputation of being safe. And Harold has also spoken about that passionately. So certainly both of us share the passion for making sure that Jonesboro continues to be a safe place to relocate, to raise your family, and also start a business. So I appreciate you making that a top priority in your campaign.
All right, and Mr. Copenhaver, you now have 2 minutes to respond to his to what he just said.
Well, I think Andy and I are here for the right reasons, and that's key for this community to know. One thing that in my plan that I'm laying forward is what I continually hear from department heads is the lapse of communication that we have with not only our police and fire together, but my key role is, as your mayor, is to be able to provide those services in a fast, safe, and timely manner. So it's important that we are able to communicate, and I mean communicate. I mean our 911 coordinator, our police, our firemen, our ambulance services, that we be all on the same communication system. With technology nowadays, that is a much easier process. Is there investment involved? Yes, there is an investment involved, but more importantly, if this community is safe, then the return on that investment is tenfold. So streamlining the process, making your mother or grandmother, when an ambulance comes to your home, if we can cut that response time by 1 minute, that can save a life. That's what this community is looking for and reaching out to. So again, the platform of safety, the platform has to be obtained through the ability of us to be able to make changes in our community so we can cut down response times, make it safer for our policemen and firemen that are on the job as well. So when I was in the legislature, I passed bills that made it safer for our daycare community as well. So again, it's just about having that open communication, and I look forward to being able to do that under my administration.
All right, Mr. Shatley, it is now your turn to ask a question for Mr. Copenhaver.
Mine is a pretty simple question, and things that we've heard is controversial in the past as far as sales tax. I have been on record saying that I voted for the sales tax on September the 10th, and I was hoping to ask both candidates today whether or not they voted for or against the sales tax initiative on September the 10th of this past year.
All right, Mr. Copenhaver, 2 minutes.
Well, I think that's a fair question, and the way I'm going to answer that, Andy, is because what I see in this community is how and what we have done and how we are moving forward. Within 36 hours after I announced my candidacy for mayor, the opposition, so to speak, to the tax going forward contacted me, and we sat down. My history is a bridge builder. There were conversations that I had with Team Jonesboro, and I had conversations before this. My concern with all of that was that it was too complicated and people didn't understand it. People in this community have told me, Harold, we want to move this community forward. We're going to do so under my administration, but it's going to be one step at a time. We're going to move that needle forward, Andy, and we can all do that together. That's what's exciting about what I'm hearing. And was a particular vote one way or the other matter? No, it doesn't matter. My point is, I saw both sides of the issue, okay? As a businessman and as a former legislator, I could see the issues of the conflict that we were headed in. We've had several issues, not only this one, but 3 or 4 years ago, I think in the last administration, we were looking at passing a tax just for police and firemen. That tax got passed, but there were conflicts in there. Before that, we had other issues as well about our community. So again, organizing and putting the people together in the first part of this conversation is what I am going to do. I've reached out to these organizations and I said, I need 2 to 3 of your members of these organizations that I can rely on to express your opinion, and let's move this community forward. I'm excited about that.
Alrighty, Mr. Shatley, 2 minutes to respond.
Well, I appreciate the response, but I didn't hear an answer to the question. But I will talk about the fact that I did support the Team Jonesboro initiative because I understand what Jonesboro needs moving forward. I also can echo the fact that I have talked to other people on both sides of this, specifically on the opposition side of the sales tax initiative. And one of the things that I've already talked about is moving forward, the solutions are identifying specific projects that we need and delineating those projects specifically with operating and maintenance expenses moving forward to make sure that we can afford those projects, and also they are widely supported. So identifying those projects are not the hard part. It's getting the support from people on those projects needing to move forward. And the police and fire, definitely, we have to have those projects. And if you look at our reserves, and that was mentioned earlier on how much reserves we had and what we could do, I think we can certainly afford to buy the land and build Station 8 and Station 9 fire stations. I'm not certain that we can afford to relocate the police department into a centralized headquarters with the funds that we have and the reserves we had right now. And so the other quality of life projects moving forward we're going to have to bring other revenue sources to the table, and that is the overwhelming sentiment that I hear from people. But one of the last things that I will talk about is when you do vote on something in the past, which all three mayoral candidates did vote on September 10th, you have to own it, and that's exactly what I've done moving forward. Because there's going to be votes that you do as a mayor, and you can't take both sides on some of those issues, and you actually have to vote in city council. So that's something that I have no problem moving forward and standing by my vote, and that's exactly what I'll do if you elect me as your next mayor.
All right, we thank you for that, Mr. Shatley, and I want to thank both of you for your participation in this debate so far. I wish we could have had the full time, but I do understand that both of you do have other commitments that preclude you to have to leave the studio a little bit earlier than we would have liked. But I do once again implore both of you to please, when you get a chance tonight, go back on our live feed and personally answer the questions, because there are so many great questions from our viewers that we did not get the opportunity to ask, and these viewers definitely deserve to have these questions answered from whoever is elected the next mayor. So for our next to last segment, again, this is a little bit of fun we're going to have here. So this is where each candidate gets to say something nice about his opponent. Now, earlier it was mentioned that both of you all sing together. I said in lieu of saying something nice, you all can sing together, but Mr. Shatley said his voice is not ready. So we're just going to start off with Mr. Shatley's saying something positive about Mr. Copenhaver, and you have 2 minutes to do so.
First of all, I want to thank Harold for this race that we've already ran. I've been going since May the 4th, but when you entered the race, it's certainly been a pleasure to have a friend of mine running in this race, and we both agree that we're going to make sure that the issues stay what's forward, and that's something that Harold has done during this race, is make sure the issues come to the top, because at the end of the day, we're trying to help our city, and I think both of us agree that we want to continue to make sure the issues stay at the top, and that the voters get a great idea of who they're voting for, because this is a very important decision. But running a positive campaign is something Harold and I both absolutely agree with, and that's what we've both done, and so I commend him for that moving forward.
Mr. Copenhaver?
Absolutely, and Andy, I didn't know much about Andy other than what I've read about him before, but music brought us together, and I've seen him in plays and at the Forum. My children have performed at the Forum as well, and so watching him grow up in this community, that's what this community stands for, and I appreciate his compassion, his love. And I think it's important that we get all young people involved in this community, and that's going to be our responsibility. Whomever is mayor is to show that passion that we have for our city, and I can't say enough of that. It is important that we work off each other. That's the only way he and I are going to learn, and we're doing both of that by listening to the community. So I think the community is a win-win situation from the standpoint that you have candidates that are asking questions, want to hear your concerns.
All right, we thank you, Mr. Copenhaver, and we will now go into our closing statement. And since Mr. Shatley went first for the opening statement, we will start with Mr. Copenhaver for the closing statement. 2 minutes.
Well, thank you, Leganzi and Quabela. If you can still hear me there, I wanted to say thank you for the opportunity this morning. It's always a good opportunity to be able to visit with our community, and again, I appreciate KLEK Radio. It is important that you, the audience, understand that this is a very critical vote. And you have taken this vote before, and as we move forward, you've heard a lot of numbers this morning. You've heard some really good ideas. But the most important thing that you have to understand is whom is the candidate that you feel can get this job done. This is a big job, and it has to be done from day one. I've already been working on this and moving forward. I've already been communicating within our community and growing that expansion outside this community. One thing we didn't discuss today was economic development. There are so many good attributes that our community has that Andy and I didn't discuss today. And we're excited about those opportunities. But more importantly, you, the voter, you've got to decide who has got the experience, who has got the ability to take these ideas, bring the community together, and move forward. I have been blessed and honored that I do have the endorsement of our current mayor, and I do wish him well in his process as he goes through his physical situation at this point, and we keep praying for Harold Perrin every day. I am blessed and humbled as well to have the firefighters and firewomen of this community endorse me as well. That's because I've worked with them in the past and been able to show that I am committed to this community. So again, I'm asking for your vote on November 3rd.
Mr. Shatley.
Thank you, sir. This has been a wonderful experience. Harold, thank you for a positive experience today. And Quabela, don't forget about you. I see you over there. I appreciate your questions too and your smiling face. I appreciate you. Leganzi, and thank you always for this platform. And also, it can be a bit intimidating to come into your, and I've spoken to this before, but man, you're a straight shooter and you're a testament to true journalism, and I appreciate that and giving the voters an opportunity to hear from the candidates. Once again, my name is Andy Shatley and I'm running for mayor of Jonesboro. This has been something I've been passionate about for several years. I have prepared for this job. I will take you back to my careers in collegiate and professional sports. Whenever I set my mind to something, I'm very competitive, and I'll do whatever it takes to get the job done. I'm very hardworking, and I will go after my goals. In 2002, I graduated from physical therapy school. My goal was to create the most successful sports medicine and wide-reaching program in Northeast Arkansas. I thought that it would probably take us 10 or 15 years. We did it in 6. So if you want to talk about experience managing things, if you want to talk about experience setting goals and setting visions, if you want to talk about experience managing people, if you want to talk about relationship building with schools, athletic directors, physicians, healthcare systems, and patients, that describes exactly what I've been doing for the last 12 years. I'm very passionate about this town. I see its potential. And all the people is about what this race is about. This is not about us as candidates. All we're trying to do is be an avenue and be a vessel to serve the public, so we can continue to move Jonesboro forward. And I'm so excited for all the support that I've gotten so far. It's been unbelievable, and I hope that you will vote for me, Andy Shatley, as your next mayor, November the 3rd.
Thank you, Mr. Shatley. And this concludes our debate. Thank you again to both of you, and of course to Mr. Elwood, who could not join us. We definitely hope and pray that everything is good with you. Of course, you will be able to catch all 3 of them tomorrow at the Jonesboro Chamber of Commerce for Political Animals at 12 noon. We will bring that to you live. And of course, now I do have to end with the disclaimer. KLEK and the Voice of Arkansas Minority Advocacy Council, we do not endorse, support, or oppose any candidate for office. This debate was provided for informational purposes only, but I can't stress this enough. Vote, vote, vote. Election day is November 3rd. Last day to register to vote is October 5th. It'll be on us before we know it. In fact, there is a voter registration event that is coming up today. So if you're not registered today, you can go by New Life Empowerment Ministries, 2109 North Church Street in Jonesboro, from 5 to 7 p.m. Get registered to vote. You do not have to get out of your car. They will walk up to you, get you the form, you fill it out, and turn it in. So if you need to get registered to vote, today is the day to do it. New Life Empowerment Ministries is putting it on, which is my church, by the way. 2109 North Church Street in Jonesboro. But get registered to vote. Early voting starts October 19th. So you've heard from the candidates. Go back, share this video, rewatch it, and decide which one of these men you think is the best choice for mayor. Again, I implore each of you, and Mr. Elwood as well, even though he was not here, go back on this live feed, answer the questions from community, because we had so many great questions. Tomorrow we're going to have our debate for the city clerk position. We will have all three candidates, so we'll get another opportunity to do this again. We'll also, coming up through the month of October, have the candidates for the various city council races and the state representative races and a couple of the justice of the peace races as well. So you guys have a great and blessed day. This is Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM.
Broadcasting from the First National Bank Tower, this is KLEK.